I'm sure a lot of your listeners have been to DC. It is just, I absolutely love going to the Jefferson Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, and you see the citations when those architects came in, built those things out. They look back to their quotations. What was most influential? Notice how many times God or the Almighty or God's providence is mentioned.
Come on.
And you love
Yes.
the way the left has warped the view of Jefferson. I'm going, have you read Jefferson? Because Jefferson talks a lot about God, talks a lot about the Almighty. And again, when you go around DC, it's everywhere because that was what we saw as a country. You saw it every day. You heard it from your leaders. They were unapologetic about it. And this whitewashing of history to pretend that no, that there wasn't this, public faith or showing of faith. We're talking about God. We're talking about God's providence. That's just, it's historically inaccurate.
Come on.
Frankly, it is academic malfeasance to teach that to the next generation. You should be teaching them truly what caused people, what inspired people. And look, it's undoubtedly God and the Bible.
Nocturnal.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Caleb Gordon Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Gordon. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be a part of the program. Listen, before we get started on the program today, we've got an amazing interview today. Can't wait for this one. I want to say thanks to our amazing sponsor, Revo Financial. Do you have a plan for your future? Do you have a plan for your money? Every Christian, every human being should have a plan for their future. Get in touch with Lucas and his team at Revo Financial. Check out revofinancial.com for everything you need to know. Get a complimentary sit-down, one-on-one consultation with Lucas and his team, and they will help guide you to where you need to be with your future and with your money. Check out revofinancial.com. On the program today, we have Superintendent Ryan Walters. He is the Superintendent of Education for the state of Oklahoma. Love this guy. He's the real deal. He was on Fox News last night talking about the idea of America first, getting patriotism back into the education system. Listen, the education system for far too long has been a leftist breeding ground. We have had teachers that have just been trying to indoctrinate children's minds to hate America, hate their parents, and hate our founding. Hate the idea that America was founded as a Christian nation. And Ryan Walters is a believer. He loves the Lord Jesus Christ, and there is no secular sacred divide for a believer. And listen, he is doing what's right, putting the idea that education should be teaching patriotism and love of country, love of God, and putting that back into the hands of the parents and saying, parents, you have the right to get your kids where you want them to go education-wise. I love what Oklahoma is doing. I am grateful to be in the state of Oklahoma. We have amazing things happening, and I'm looking forward to this conversation with Superintendent Ryan Walters. I pray it blesses you and it encourages you this week. Hey, welcome to the program, Ryan. How are you doing, my friend?
Very good. It's an honor to be on.
Yes, absolutely. Holy smoke, it's been a wild 72 hours.
Isn't it awesome?
My goodness.
The energy. And I was talking to some folks this morning and they were going, I can't get enough. I want to keep seeing him sign executive orders.
Yes. I just sign again. Now, are you in Washington or are you back in Oklahoma?
I just got back. So I'm back in Oklahoma.
That's fantastic. All right, man, this is great. I posted this on my social media the other day. I feel hopeful. I haven't felt hopeful in a long time, and man, I just feel hopeful. It's a good feeling.
I haven't seen anything like it. I was in D.C. For the inauguration weekend, and the amount of people that, to your point, it's hope. This is America. We're back to that strong America first. And we're talking about American ideals. We're talking about what makes America great, a return to that. It is truly an exciting and inspiring time. And frankly, being in the education space, it's so important that this next generation sees a president, again, that loves this country, is proud of his country. We're talking about American greatness again. This is exactly what we need for the next generation to remember. This is America.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that caught my attention, I'm a pastor, I'm a Christian. This podcast is a Christian podcast. The thing that caught my attention was when you said we want to get the Bibles back in school. And the local, I live here in Oklahoma, so the local media just went nuts over, oh my goodness, there was one, I don't remember which news organization it was, but they said, Ryan's trying to get students to pray to Donald Trump. So I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to go check this out, because if this is true, I need to like call this out on my show. And I went and watched it, and you're like, I'm going to pray for Donald Trump. And I was like, that's what Christians should do, is pray for our leaders. I was like, these people are out of their minds.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the reality: is the left and the media do an incredible job of gaslighting, the American people and trying to act like something is very different than what it is. And here's the reality: our position has been crystal clear. The Bible is a historical document. That's undeniable. Look, the
Yes.
left, they can be offended by it, they cannot like it, but you're telling me you're going to teach kids Thomas Jefferson said you're endowed by your creator and not tell them anything about what. Okay, what does that phrase mean? How would
Come
an
on.
American have taken that phrase? Okay, what's the first Great Awakening? What's the second Great Awakening? Why
Yes.
did the Pilgrims come to America? I mean, good luck explaining these things, minus any talk of God, any talk of religion, any talk of the Bible. Well, that's absurd. That's not history, right?
100%.
Indoctrination, saying, no, everything happened for secular reasons. It's like, guys, let's just read what they said. They quoted the Bible more than any other book, okay? Let's talk about what their faith was. Again, we're not saying you have to be that faith. We're not pushing it on you. We're just trying to teach history. And to your point about prayer, we've been crystal clear. We're going to protect your religious liberties in school. I mean, I miss that part of the Constitution that says all these rights apply except in a public school, right? That's not what it said. So look, if you want to pray, we're going to protect your right to pray. We're not going to tell you have to pray. We're not going to tell you how to pray. We're going to say, look, freedom of religion is essential in our country's history. So we're going to protect your freedom to do so or not do so how you see fit.
Absolutely. And one of the things I just found fascinating is I'm like, Ryan's a believer, and we're called as believers to pray for our leaders. And that's all I took. I mean, I watched you. You in fact even said you don't have to pray with me, but I'm going to. And you just prayed a simple prayer that says, "Lord, protect Donald Trump and protect his administration. Give him wisdom." I was like, that sounds like a normal prayer that all Christians should be praying for their leaders. I
It
don't
is
know.
funny to watch. I mean, you got to deal. I was dealing with CNN on this issue, and it's like, okay, guys, maybe you haven't heard a Christian pray before, but like that's kind of what it sounds like, right? And I mean, and I literally had a host from CNN argue with me of, well, you talk about Jefferson and saying our rights came up from our creator. How do you know he wasn't talking about like the Hindu god Vishnu or something? And I'm going,
Good grief.
there's no one who was in America at that time who was thought Jefferson was referring to Vishnu
Nope.
from Hinduism. But that just shows you how much they gaslight,
Oh,
how
yeah.
much they strive to lie to you and go, hey, don't believe what you see, don't believe what you read.
Yes.
It's like, guys, just let the kids read what Jefferson said. Let the kids
Yes.
read the founding documents. Let them read our history. And again, they're going to come to the conclusion it's the greatest country in the history of the world. They're going to look at those values. It's undeniable the Bible played a major role in American history. And that's what we're trying to do is get back to that.
I love that. It's great. So give us a little just history on Ryan. How did Jesus get a hold of you, Ryan?
Yeah, so my background is my dad's a preacher down in southeast Oklahoma, and so we
PK. All right.
right. So we grew up. The faith was obviously very important in our lives. I went to a Christian college university, Harding University. My whole family did. Brother and sister did. We did that. Met my wife there. Met my wife in the Gospel of John Bible class. Where
Nice.
that kind of story there. But look, so God played a major role in our life. We're devout Christians. We're very it's incredible to be blessed by our Creator, and it's one of those things that as I grew up, I was very close to my grandfather. He was a veteran from Vietnam, and we talked a lot about that. When he got out of the war, he came back home. In the Navy, he became a Navy recruiter, so he would go into schools and work with young people. And we talked a lot about him, talking about when they pulled prayer out of school.
Yes.
When they started removing it, and he's like, there's a noticeable difference, and that didn't mean that, that everybody participated in all of these events. But what he said was, when you removed it, it was replaced by something. And we had a lot of conversations about this growing up. And now it's obvious when you saw the Supreme Court weaponize itself to take God out of school, prayer out of school, what we did is we created school systems that are atheist centers. I mean, they say, listen, all you can talk about is secular forces on the world. You can never mention God. We're going to drive it out. We're going to remove it from our history books. And so kids grow up with it. I mean, how do you understand American history without that segment taken out? And it's because they are pushing a worldview.
Oh, 100%.
If they weren't pushing one, Hey, just include it. And I always get that question. Well, what do you tell an atheist student or what? I go, what do you mean? What do I tell them? Like, that's our history, guys. I mean, I would tell them we're not going to lie to you. We're not
Exactly.
telling you that you have to believe a certain way, but we are telling you that history is history. We want you to learn from it. We want you to draw your own conclusions from it. And so we're not going to remove parts of faith because it might be offensive to somebody.
Come on, yes, and that's the thing that just is wild to me is our schools have been leftist indoctrination centers for far too long, and when we did take prayer and the Bible out of the school system, it did get replaced by something. They are attempting to indoctrinate. I tell people all the time. I tell Christian parents all the time, you should be indoctrinating your children in the scriptures because somebody else is waiting in the wings to be able to do that to your children. So you better be ready to go. But here's the thing that I was just struck with. I grew up in the 90s. I
Mhm.
was in my dad was a pastor, and so I went all the youth rallies and all sat in Sunday school classes, and all these parents, they were some of them were war veterans. They said, man, everything had a visible shift. Everything changed when they took prayer and the Bible out of the school system. It is proven over and over and over again where God's word is glorified and exalted, good things happen. It's for the betterment of mankind. Every place I know that where God is in the center of things, humanity does far better. So I don't know. It's just a wild thing.
Well, and look, David Barton's a good friend of mine, and we
Yes.
talk about this a lot. He's documented this heavily in his books. But look at 1963,
Hmm.
and look at nearly every social indicator got worse when they removed the Bible and prayer from school. We're talking
Yes.
drug use, suicide use from teenagers. I mean, you see all of these statistics. Just, I mean, literally, when you see the Bible removed from schools, you see a skyrocket in every negative category.
Yes.
It has had a very negative impact on our schools, on this next generation, on society. And frankly, like I said, it's really undeniable that that's occurred. And again, what we've continued to allow the left to do is to gaslight the American people into believing, hey, no, I mean, we've got to get all these things out. We've got to, we can't have any mention of it because somehow,
Mm.
and again, they completely take out of context the Establishment Clause in the Constitution. They're dead wrong on that. The Establishment Clause doesn't say that, again, if you enter a public school, a public courthouse, a public anything, magically, you better not quote the Bible. You better not say a prayer. I mean, you think about it. I mean, like if we could, George Washington would be losing his mind right
Oh my
now.
goodness. Yes.
He would probably fight you. I mean, he probably really would go, no, no, no.
Physically. Yes.
You were telling me that number one, um, you can't say these things in a school, and then somehow, and I love this argument too, if we allow people to pray, all of a sudden that means we have to allow Satanists to come into our school and everything else. And
No.
absolutely no, we do not. Satanism is not a religion. Okay. That is an absolute cult. It is not the same thing as Christianity. It's
Thank
never
you.
been viewed that way in our history. So that is an absurd argument the left uses that, again, would have never flown in the 17 and 1800s. That is not what they were talking about. They understood that religion is not Satanism and trying to have a detriment and tear down society. Religion they were talking about were things that were building up
Come on.
society, creating unity, talking about faith, talking about morality. And so again, just we've got to firmly reject those arguments. We cannot allow the left to continue to undermine the future of our country by making us timid. We
Come
need
on.
to be bold. We need to be unapologetic about this. Our country is great in part because of those Judeo-Christian values that our founders had, that frankly we had throughout our history till about the 1960s. You see this tremendous diversion from that. But hey, look at every presidential speech. They mention God. Look at Abraham Lincoln talking about God's providence. And I always like to point to, we talk about the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King Jr. was a preacher. That
Yeah.
was his background. Martin Luther King Jr., when he's arrested and thrown into a Birmingham jail, and everyone's ripping him, going, you say that you're a man of morality, and yet you broke the law. What does he do? He pins a letter from a Birmingham jail and says, I'm looking at Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I'm looking at Daniel. I'm looking at biblical examples of people who broke the law when it didn't coincide with God's law. This
Mm.
isn't me saying it. That was Martin Luther King Jr.'s argument
Yeah.
for advancing civil rights. And yet, how would you teach that to kids in today's time where the teachers' unions and leftists say, well, I mean, you got to tell that story, but you can't mention the Bible. You can't mention any Bible verses. It's like, okay, well, then how do you explain how Martin Luther King justified
Come on.
the civil rights movement? It's ridiculous.
No, absolutely. And you were just, I mean, we just watched the inauguration, and in that, I've been in the Capitol, I've been in that building. There are references to God engraved in stone all over our capitals, all over the nation. In Oklahoma City, there are references to God in stone in those buildings. And I'm just like, how could we miss this? This is just absolutely absurd.
To your point, if you, I'm sure a lot of your listeners have been to DC. It is just, I absolutely love going to the Jefferson Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, and you see the citations when those architects came in, built those things out. They look back to their quotations, what was most influential. Notice how many times God or the Almighty or God's providence is mentioned.
Come on.
And you love
Yes.
the way the left has warped the view of Jefferson. I'm going, have you read Jefferson? Because Jefferson talks a lot about God, talks a lot about the Almighty. And again, when you go around DC, it's everywhere because that was what we saw as a country. You saw
Yes.
it every day. You heard it from your leaders. They were unapologetic about it. And this whitewashing of history to pretend that no, that there wasn't this, public faith or showing of faith or talking about God or talking about God's providence. That's just it's historically inaccurate.
Come on.
Frankly, it is academic malfeasance to teach that to the next generation. You should be teaching them truly what caused people, what inspired people. And look, it's undoubtedly God and the Bible.
Yes, absolutely. And the left's attempt to make students, I mean, they're taking the left is taking a playbook straight. They love to use this all the time. They are taking a playbook straight out of Hitler's playbook. If you can get the youth, you can get the future. And what we wanted to try to do is indoctrinate these kids to believe that our country was never a Christian nation, that it was never a great nation, and that we should, you should hate what your parents are trying to teach you, which is just insane.
Yeah, and look, you see it in communism as well, right? Karl Marx was crystal clear. You got to do away with this religion. You got to do away with
Yes.
Christianity. You got to believe in the state. You got to believe in the communist ideology. That's the only way, and you got to have the kids do it. That's the secret, is to get to the kids. And again, look, I tell folks this too, and I know heard you get this. You're crystal clear on this. This isn't a coincidence.
Come on. Yes.
I have some people that go, what happened to our colleges? How did they get so? What happened to the teachers union? I'm going, guys. I will give the left credit for this. They have played the long game. They have said, listen, if we control Hollywood, if we control the news media, and if we control the school system, hey, we might lose a battle, but we're winning the war. And then we turn around and look at, I've got Jewish friends that, it was a terrible conversation I had with them a few months ago, after you saw these attacks on college campuses going, we are literally fearful to send our kids to a university because could they incur physical violence? You look at, how have we gotten to this point where the anti-Semitism, the anti-Christian, anti-American sentiment has gotten that strong on a college campus? Well, the left has been playing this game for decades of building out education to indoctrinate kids into their worldview. And that's where, I pointed this out a couple of years ago, the world's education statistics came out, and Joe Biden, Secretary of Education, was like, it wasn't as bad as we thought. I was like, hold on. We fell further behind all of our Europe countries. We fell further behind China. We fell further behind India, all these countries, right? And their response is, it's not that bad. And I said, well, it is telling, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
They care about that. They weren't looking at math scores, science. They weren't looking at, hey, are we actually preparing the youth for the future? No, they're going, hey, as long as we're indoctrinating them, who cares about that? And seeing that evidence into our schools, and that's where we're looking at Oklahoma. Look, we're going to lead the way of, look, the Bible's going to be back in the classroom. Kids are going to be understanding of an American exceptionalism, and we're unapologetic. We want patriots in our schools. We want them to be flying the American flag. We want them to be proud of their country, and we're going to get back to understanding the basics. So again, kids can go out and get jobs, and look, that's important. We want kids to be employable when they get out of school, but also what I think is so important is we want kids to get the most out of their God-given talents. There is a happiness, there is a level of being content that comes from, hey, I'm good at this. I know this. I'm good with my hands. I'm going to go work here, or I'm going to go work there. And it benefits people around me. God created everyone uniquely with unique skills and talents. And it's so important for young people to find those things. It helps them lead a higher quality of life. They can provide for their family, provide for their community, and utilize those talents. And so I think it's so important for the future of our state and the future of our country that we do that.
Nocturnal.
Hey, I wanted to step in here really quick and talk to you all about the Built to Conquer conference. It's coming February 22nd, 2025 to Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Okay? In a world that's increasingly filled with chaos and confusion, it is crucial for families to reclaim the spiritual ground that has been lost to the enemy. We aim at this conference, our goal is to empower and equip men and women with the tools and the resources they need to stand firm against the madness in our times. And I'm telling you, this is going to be an amazing conference that's going to equip the saints for the work that's necessary to advance the kingdom. And so come be a part of this, February 22nd. 2025. We've got amazing speakers lined up for this conference. It's going to be at Hope Presbyterian Church in Bartlesville. They are such a great host church for us. I just love Peter Johnson. He's an amazing pastor. Come be a part of this with us. We're going to have speakers, Pastor Michael Staten, Brett Baggett, Josh Eaton, Brandon Scalf, Chris Gore, Gabe Wrench is going to be there, Andrew Rappaport, the Andrew Rappaport is going to be there with us. It's going to be an amazing day. Tickets are $50. Go to my website, calebgordon.org, and you can get all the information there. Click the little icon of the picture, and you'll get ticket information and all of the details. Come be a part of this. It's going to be an amazing day. The Built to Conquer Conference. Thank you so much for taking a stand publicly from this office. I mean, you were on Fox News last night. Donald Trump tweeted and said that he really appreciated you, and I was like, "Come on, let's go! That's fantastic!" Like that you're doing what's right in the public space, and it's getting noticed. And I believe this is how we win. This is how we take back ground that has been forfeited. And I believe you're doing a fantastic job. So I want to applaud you and just thank you from the bottom of my heart for being salt and light actually in the world in which we live.
Caleb, that means a lot. I really appreciate it. And I want to say this too.
Yes,
it is really unfortunate, but I can tell you, I've gotten so much grief from people in my own party that have said, "Hey, slow down." We all say these things on a campaign trail, but you don't go do all of them, right? Like just take your time. Just
lie to us,
Yeah. No, that's exactly what I say. I go, so you're telling me when you went out there and made campaign promises, that was just a lie? It's like, well, no, that's just, the way things work. I go, I'm sorry. I guess I didn't get the memo.
Amen.
When I looked at all these Oklahomans in the face and said, I will fight for you and your values. I will return those values to our schools. I will make sure that our schools are preparing your child in truth, number one, and two, to lead a high quality life. I'm not going to allow teachers unions to dictate to your kids. I'm going to allow you, the parent, to drive your kids' education. I meant it. And Amen. I meant that I'm going to wake up every morning and try my best to get us to that point where you see that improvement. Your kids have the best education possible. It's not a wake up every morning and go, but maybe today I should, take a break and look back and say, well, we already accomplished A, B, and C. Absolutely not. I have been given a limited amount of time by the voters of Oklahoma to get to a goal, and we're going to move at lightning speed. And look, to your point, President Trump has done a tremendous job of bringing this to the forefront. He's championed things like bringing the Bible back to school, bringing the Ten Commandments back to school, talking about prayer. He made crystal clear on the campaign trail, prayer will be back in our public schools. And I've got to applaud President Trump. We couldn't be doing these things if it wasn't for someone out in front like that showing true leadership. But I'm going to tell you, on the other hand, too, we've got to hold Republican officials accountable for telling voters one thing Amen. And then not fulfilling their promises.
Yes.
Oklahomans are clear. We live in the best state in the country. The country has a significant shift. All 7 swing states voted for President Trump. He has really woken up the American people to this is the path forward. We have got to work forward to make sure we're seeing that improvement. The voters have spoken loudly and clearly, and it's time the elected officials act in accordance with that.
Amen. I can't. Yes. And here's the thing: the enemy doesn't take a day off, and so what we do is our guys in office are so we could just we could sit back and coast now. Absolutely not. Now is when we need to advance the cause. Salt and light do specific things. Salt it keeps the rot away, and light dispels darkness. That is our calling. That's what Jesus called us. He said, listen, you as a believer in me are salt and light. And those two are activated agents that do specific and particular things. And to not do those things. Well, I'm a Christian, but I don't stand up for what's right. Well, then maybe you're not a Christian.
And if it offends somebody, we're not supposed to do it. I mean, I don't. I'm going, I don't know where you found that in scripture, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand that. But number two, you see folks that are running for elections and getting into office in order to have the title or to win the election. And then, no, I ran for this office to try to do things for the American
Come
people, for
on.
the people
Yes.
of Oklahoma. It was, you run for the position to help people, to bring us back to those core values, to bring us back in line to the conservative vision that Oklahomans had for our school system, for our state. It's to do something, not to hold a position, not for a title, but to actually do the thing. And it's
Yes.
so important that we continue to try to find Republicans that are willing to do that, that are willing to say, hey, what are your values? What is the path forward? Get those people in office. And again, the reality should be put your foot more on the gas pedal. We got a long way to go. And again, like we said earlier, the left has been at this for generations
Yep.
to move us so far to the left. So if they moved us this far to the left and we just tweak it a little bit, look where we are.
Yeah.
We have got to have a major course correction. We have
Yes.
to have institutional change to get this country back in line with, first of all, our U.S. Constitution, number one, but number two, the values that we were founded on. And I think you've
100%.
got to move forward. We've got to be aggressive in order to do that.
Love it. Thank you. Man, absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time to tell us these things, to reaffirm what we've already been preaching on this show for years now, that we're called to take back ground that has been forfeited to the enemy. And I believe that great things are ahead. So yesterday was the shot in the arm and the excitement to watch the inauguration. I'm praying that today's program will help just encourage Christians to actually be Christians and stand up for what's right, stand up for the moral high ground, and just live out the values that are laid out in the scripture that calls us to be salt, calls us to be light. So thank you so much for taking time to tell us this and to share your heart and to encourage our hearts.
Well, Caleb, thank you so much for what you're doing. You're doing a tremendous job advocating for those values, bringing information to the people. And so thank you for being a true champion for these values. And again, I really appreciate you having me on.
Come on. Yes, sir.
Nocturnal.
Hey, I wanted to step in here really quick and talk to you all about the Built to Conquer conference that's coming February 22nd, 2025 to Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Okay? In a world that's increasingly filled with chaos and confusion, it is crucial for families to reclaim the spiritual ground that has been lost to the enemy. We aim at this conference, our goal is to empower and equip men and women with the tools and the resources they need to stand firm against the madness in our times. And I'm telling you, this is going to be an amazing conference that's going to equip the saints for the work that's necessary to advance the kingdom. And so come be a part of this February 22nd, 2025. We've got amazing speakers lined up for this conference. It's going to be at Hope Presbyterian Church in Bartlesville. They are such a great host church for us. I just love Peter Johnson. He's an amazing pastor. Come be a part of this with us. We're going to have speakers, Pastor Michael Staten, Brett Baggett, Josh Eaton, Brandon Scalf, Chris Gore, Gabe Wrench is going to be there, Andrew Rappaport, Andrew Rappaport is going to be there with us. It's going to be an amazing day. Tickets are $50. Go to my website, calebgordon.org, and you can get all the information there. Click the little icon of the picture, and you'll get ticket information and all of the details. Come be a part of this. It's going to be an amazing day. The Built to Conquer Conference.